So if you were to undergo brain surgery right now, like wide awake, you wouldn't actually feel a single thing in your brain tissue,
Right, yeah. The brain itself has absolutely zero pain receptors.
which is wild to think about. Like a surgeon could literally be tapping on it and you just wouldn't flinch.
You'd feel nothing. It's completely numb.
Right. So when a migraine hits and it feels like, this physical sledgehammer is just repeatedly striking the inside of your skull, what exactly is screaming in agony?
Well, that's the thing. The answer to that question fundamentally changes how we approach, like, all chronic pain.
It really does. And welcome in, everyone. We know you, our listener, are the learner. You aren't here for like a generic list of top 10 health tips you can find
No,
anywhere.
exactly. You want the actual
Yeah,
mechanics.
you want to understand the why and the how beneath the surface,
Right.
bypassing all that dense medical jargon, but completely skipping the superficial fluff too. We know you want the actionable nuggets, and today we're serving them up.
And the material we're exploring today is, it's exceptionally dense
Yeah.
in the best possible way.
Oh, it really is. We're basing today's deep dive on a recent Q&A session from Gary Brecka over on the Ultimate Human platform.
Right, which is basically a masterclass in biological optimization,
Yeah.
moving from, basic daily habits all the way to advanced cellular science.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we are looking at an incredible spectrum of human biology today.
We really are.
We've got the biological chaos of shift workers, age-related muscle loss, the true root cause of migraines, which we just hinted at, kids' snacks, and then, the cutting-edge science of peptides and hormone replacement therapy.
Which, I mean, on the surface, that sounds like a scattershot list, right?
Totally. It sounds like 5 different deep dives.
But there's this really elegant through line here, because it all connects back to a central biological reality, which is giving the body exactly what it needs at a cellular level.
Yeah, precisely when it expects it.
Right. Whether we're talking about food timing, mineral gradients, or like amino acid sequences, it's all about recognizing that our bodies are hyper-responsive systems.
They aren't static. They're constantly waiting for environmental instructions.
Exactly.
So we're essentially reading the instruction manual today. And let's start with the most fundamental instruction of all, which is our internal clock.
The circadian rhythm.
Right, because the source material specifically addresses first responders, firefighters, EMTs, ER nurses pulling these crazy 24-hour shifts.
People who literally cannot regulate their sleep.
Yeah, their jobs demand hypervigilance right when their biology is desperately trying to shut down for sleep.
Which is a profound physiological stressor. I mean, telling a shift worker to just prioritize 8 hours is useless advice.
It's insulting, honestly. It's physically impossible for them.
Right, so the focus has to shift to what can actually be regulated. And the leverage you can pull are light exposure and food timing.
Because the brain works off these environmental cues called Zeitgebers, right?
Yeah, Zeitgebers. They're the influencers of the circadian cycle.
So I look at the circadian rhythm like a massive symphony orchestra.
Okay, I like that.
If the main conductor, which is consistent sleep, is just out sick, the rest of the orchestra is going to devolve into total chaos.
Right, the strings are doing one thing, the brass is doing another.
Yeah, exactly. The strings are playing a lullaby and the brass is playing a march. So you have to rely heavily on the sheet music, which is your light, and the metronome, which is your food timing, just to keep the rhythm.
That's a great way to put it. When that conductor is missing, the metronome dictates everything.
Because food triggers a whole cascade, doesn't it?
Oh, massively. When food enters the digestive tract, it flips the systemic switch. It announces to the whole body that it's daytime and energy processing is required.
So if an ER nurse is forced to be awake at like 3:00 a.m., but they keep their eating schedule strictly aligned with normal daytime hours.
They're anchoring their digestive pattern. They're forcing the internal organs to maintain a consistent clock, even if the brain's sleep clock is scrambled.
Wow. Which brings up this travel hack mentioned in the source that I found. Well, kind of brutal.
The London Protocol.
Yeah, flying from the East Coast to London, which is a 5-hour jump. The protocol says if it's a short trip under 7 days, keep your digestion on home time.
Right.
So if you normally eat breakfast at 6:00 a.m. Eastern, you shouldn't eat in London until 11:00 a.m. local time.
Because that correlates to your biological expectation.
But wait, if you're walking around London and you are absolutely starving at 8 a.m. local time, is it really better to just starve yourself for 3 more hours just to appease this internal clock?
What we have to look at what that 8 a.m. hunger actually is. It's rarely a true physiological demand for calories.
Really, it feels like it.
Right, but it's actually a hormonal habit.
Yeah.
Ghrelin, your hunger hormone, is spiking because the local light environment is saying it's morning.
Oh, I see.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the moment you introduce solid food, you are locking in a brand new time zone for your internal organs.
Because the circadian rhythm regulates all that metabolic function.
Exactly. Your liver, your pancreas, your microbiome, they all have their own localized peripheral clocks.
So eating at 8 a.m. London time is basically aggressively resetting your liver's clock while your brain is still lagging 5 hours behind.
Yes. You induce internal jet lag. The liver thinks it's morning. The brain thinks it's the middle of the night.
Oh, wow. So delaying that meal keeps the whole orchestra playing from the same sheet music.
Precisely. And this is vital for trips under 7 days to prevent massive metabolic dysregulation.
Think about what this means for you, the listener. Even if you never work a night shift, think about midnight snacking.
Oh, it's disastrous.
If you're eating a bowl of cereal at 11 p.m., you are sending this glaring wake-up signal to a body that's trying to shut down.
You're causing cellular confusion. It's a Zeitgeber that violently conflicts with reality.
And that ties perfectly into the other main Zeitgeber, light.
Right. Because the biological sensitivity to light is just staggering. It takes a tiny amount, what they call candle wattage, to disrupt sleep.
Just a glimmer like a TV standby light?
Yeah, or street lights coming through the blinds. It's enough to trigger a localized cortisol spike.
And cortisol is the wake-up hormone, right? So it just crushes melatonin.
Exactly. Cortisol goes up, melatonin plummets. So for shift workers or anyone in a city, a high-quality organic cotton eye mask isn't a luxury.
It's a biological necessity.
You absolutely have to have pitch blackness to protect that melatonin.
Okay, so since food timing is this powerful signal, what happens when we manipulate what we consume? Specifically with fasting and exercise.
Well, this is where a lot of fitness dogma gets dismantled by cellular biology.
Yeah, because we've all heard about the metabolic window, right? This myth that you have like 30 to 45 minutes after a workout to chug a protein shake or your muscles will dissolve.
Right, which causes so much anxiety. But the clinical reality is that the window is largely a myth. Fasted exercise is actually preferred.
And the protocol for that is super specific. First thing in the morning, fasted workout, and you consume only 3 things: mineral salt, hydrogen water, and all 9 essential amino acids, or EAAs.
And the most critical claim here is that EAAs do not break the fast.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because people think protein breaks a fast.
Well, whole dietary protein does.
Yeah.
If you eat a steak or a normal whey shake, you're ingesting complex folded proteins.
Right.
Your liver has to use massive metabolic energy to break those down, a process called cleaving.
Okay, so I look at EAAs like pre-cut lumber. If you eat whole protein, your liver is the lumber mill. It has to fire up the heavy machinery, chop up the raw logs, and that takes insulin.
And an insulin spike definitively ends your fast.
But EAAs are already cut to size. They bypass the lumber mill and go straight to the construction site.
Exactly. The liver stays dormant, insulin stays stable, and the fast continues. But the presence of those EAAs is critical.
Why? What happens if you just drink plain water during a hard fasted workout?
The liver detects a crisis. It sees muscle damage that needs repair, but there are no building blocks in the bloodstream.
So it panics.
Right. It initiates gluconeogenesis. Out of sheer desperation, it strips nitrogen off other amino acids and turns them into glucose.
Wait, so by being a purist and only drinking water, you're forcing your body to spike its own blood sugar.
Yes, you're cannibalizing your own resources.
That is wild, and that explains why so many people get dizzy or shaky when they try intermittent fasting.
Exactly. They get lightheaded. They think fasting just isn't for them.
But really, their liver is just freaking out because it doesn't have the pre-cut lumber.
Right. A simple EAA protocol completely changes the accessibility of fasting for the general public.
And this isn't just for young athletes. This exact mechanical bypass is huge for the elderly people 65 and up dealing with sarcopenia, which is muscle wasting.
Sarcopenia is a massive threat to longevity because as we age, protein metabolism becomes highly inefficient.
The lumber mill gets old and the blades get dull.
Exactly. A 70-year-old eating a steak extracts way fewer usable amino acids than a 30-year-old.
So the protocol for them is 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight, plus supplementing with those EAAs, right?
Yes, to circumvent that metabolic bottleneck,
Yeah.
you give the aging body the raw materials it desperately needs.
And obviously lifting heavy weight 3 days a week. If you want to live a long time, lift heavy weight.
It's undeniable. You have to place the skeletal system under bearing stress.
What about whey protein? The source mentioned hydrolyzed whey is actually good during exercise, provided it doesn't have high fructose corn syrup or sugars.
Right, hydrolyzed whey gets a bad rap from purists, but clinically, its rapid absorption is excellent for muscle synthesis. The danger is entirely in the commercial additives, not the whey itself.
So clean inputs are everything, which transitions perfectly into what we're feeding our kids, because we're basically programming their biology from day one.
It's an uncomfortable reality.
Oh, very. The standard kids' diet is a minefield of Doritos, seed oils, and artificial dyes.
The physiological consequence is profound. The protocol discussed is a radical elimination of all of that. No MSG, no seed oils.
And replacing them with whole foods. Grass-fed, beef jerky, Parmesan crisps instead of potato chips.
Right, or if they eat chips, they should be fried in beef tallow with natural sea salt.
Whole-fat Greek yogurt, sweetened with monk fruit and berries. But here's the one that really got me. Cold cucumbers for crunch instead of chips.
Yes.
Okay, I love the idea of cucumbers and berries, but let's be real. If a kid is used to MSG and Cheetos, aren't they just going to throw the cucumber across the room?
Oh, in the short term, absolutely. Rejection is guaranteed.
So how do you actually make that work?
Well, this exposes the biological adaptability of the palate. Taste isn't a permanent character trait.
It's not.
No, it's highly adaptable. When you feed someone hyper-processed, super sweet foods, you literally alter the receptor sensitivity of their taste buds.
You fry the hardware.
Basically, yeah. The baseline for flavor gets pushed so high that an apple or a cucumber tastes like literal cardboard.
So the kid isn't just being stubborn, their biology has been hijacked.
Exactly. It's a physiological reset. When you remove those processed inputs, the taste buds undergo cellular turnover. They recalibrate.
Wow. So after a while, that cold cucumber actually registers as sweet and crunchy again.
Right. But you have to endure that frustrating reset, period.
Clean meats were also a huge focus. Bison, buffalo, grass-fed beef, and mixing organ meats into ground beef.
Which is brilliant. Organ meats are incredibly nutrient-dense, but the taste is metallic and intense.
Yeah, kids aren't eating a plate of liver.
No. But if you grind it up and blend it into standard ground beef, you mask the taste entirely, but exponentially increase the nutrients.
It's the ultimate biological hack.
And what's fascinating here is how all this connects to the gut, and specifically the skin.
Right, because conditions like psoriasis, eczema, and rosacea are almost always treated as skin problems.
But they are actually linked to gut dysbiosis.
Deficient gut bacteria, often from past antibiotic use, right?
Yes. A round of broad-spectrum antibiotics scorches the earth in the gut. It kills the bad stuff, but decimates the good colonies too.
So the skin issues are just surface-level alarm bells ringing from the gut.
Exactly. If a dermatologist just gives you a topical steroid, you are basically walking over to a blaring fire alarm and ripping the batteries out of the wall.
Oh man, that's a perfect analogy. The noise stops, but the house is still on fire.
The fire in the microbiome is raging. To fix it, you need targeted probiotics, prebiotics like sauerkraut to feed them, and colostrum.
And getting a GI map stool test.
Right, because you need precise data. A GI map shows you the exact strains you are missing, so you aren't just blindly guessing.
Think about that, listener. How many of those stubborn external conditions are just symptoms of a compromised gut? It's all connected.
It's all systemic.
Speaking of treating the wrong end of the symptom, let's look at one of the most debilitating daily conditions. Chronic migraines.
This completely upends conventional treatment.
A listener asked Gary about their daily migraines, and they were guessing it was tied to MTHFR gene mutations or methylation.
Right. They were looking for a complex genetic answer because standard meds like NSAIDs and triptans were failing.
But the focus pivots to something way more foundational. The sodium gradient.
There is a stark inverse correlation here. Higher systemic sodium equals fewer migraines.
So what does this all mean? Because mechanically, if my head is throbbing, it feels like my actual brain is in pain.
But as we established at the top of the show, the brain has no pain receptors. It cannot generate a pain signal.
Right, so what hurts?
The pain comes from the dura mater, which is the tough covering of the brain. It is packed with pain receptors.
And what triggers those receptors?
The dura hates being stretched or contracted. It demands spatial stability.
It's like thinking the engine of your car is screaming, but engines don't have vocal cords. It's actually the metal hood of the car warping from the heat.
Exactly. The dura is the hood warping. And that stretching is dictated by the osmotic gradient, which is controlled by sodium.
Water follows salt.
Yes. If you are deficient in sodium, fluid shifts rapidly in the skull, physically pulling on that sensitive dura mater.
Which explains why so many people get migraines right when they wake up.
Yes. Morning onset. Because after 8 hours of sleeping and breathing, you haven't consumed any fluids or electrolytes.
You are at peak dehydration at 6 a.m.
The fluid gradient is unstable, osmotic pressure shifts, and the dura is stretched.
So the fix is just adding a high-quality mineral salt to your drinking water.
Yes, stabilizing that gradient can put migraines into remission.
That completely flips the narrative on sodium. It's been demonized for decades.
It has. Now, the huge caveat here, if you are on a low-salt cardiac diet or taking heart medication, you absolutely must consult your doctor. Do not change your sodium on your own.
Right, definitely talk to a doctor if you have heart issues. But for a healthy person, you might just be dealing with severe mineral depletion, not a lack of ibuprofen.
Exactly. And NSAIDs just numb the alarm system. They don't fix the physical stretching of the dura. You have to fix the root cause.
It's incredible how long it takes for medical understanding to catch up with biological reality.
Oh, the lag time is measured in decades.
And nowhere is that lag time more heavily debated than in our final topics: hormone replacement therapy and peptides.
This area is a tragedy of misinterpreted data.
A listener asked about their mother, over 70, suffering from estrogen deficiency, osteoporosis, muscle loss, cognitive decline, but she was terrified of HRT because of cancer risks.
Right. But the US FDA recently removed the black box warnings from female HRT.
Wait, really?
Yes. The fear almost entirely comes from the Women's Health Initiative study from the 90s, which was massively misquoted.
How does one of the largest studies on the planet get so misquoted that women suffer from osteoporosis for decades out of fear?
This raises an important question about how we consume data. The researchers back then panicked over early data and halted a part of the study. The headline screamed that HRT causes cancer.
But that wasn't the whole story.
Not at all. When independent endocrinologists reevaluated that exact data later, they found the risks were mostly tied to older synthetic hormones or starting way too late. In fact, when using bioidentical transdermal hormones correctly, it actually showed a reduction in breast cancer and heart issues for specific cohorts.
That is infuriating. An entire generation denied relief because of bad headlines.
It really is. But the key now is precision. You don't just guess with hormones. You use something like the DUT-CH test.
Right, the dried urine test for comprehensive hormones.
Yes, it maps exactly how your body metabolizes hormones, so a functional medicine doctor can supplement exactly what you need.
And that desire for precise, targeted intervention leads us right into peptides.
The absolute frontier of medicine.
But it feels like the Wild West right now. Everyone online is pushing them.
Which is incredibly dangerous. The rule is absolute. You must get peptides prescribed by a doctor through a certified compounding pharmacy.
Because if you buy them from some random internet site, you're risking heavy metal contamination or just injecting expensive water.
Exactly. A compounding pharmacy guarantees sterility and potency.
So assuming it's legit, what actually is a peptide?
Structurally, it's just a short chain of amino acids, an intercellular signaling molecule.
So they aren't synthetic alien chemicals.
No, they are the exact sequences your body naturally uses to tell cells how to heal. We just stop making enough of them as we age.
I compare peptides to highly specific software updates.
How so?
Well, instead of a broad update all button that might crash the whole system, which is basically how standard pharmaceuticals work with all their side effects, you're downloading a specific patch just for the rotator cuff or just for the skin.
That is a brilliant analogy. It's totally modular.
Right. So what are the categories? There's the healing ones?
Yes, BPC 157 and TB 500. They upregulate growth hormone receptors in damaged tissue and promote new blood vessel formation.
So they drastically speed up tendon and muscle repair.
Exactly. Then you have immune boosters like thymosin alpha.
And the science fiction one, telomere lengthening?
Epitalon. It interacts with telomerase to maintain the protective caps on your DNA, actively pushing back against cellular aging.
Which is just mind-blowing. And there are natural growth hormone stimulators too, right?
Secretagogues, sermorelin, ipamorelin. These are crucial because they don't replace your natural growth hormone like synthetic HGH does.
Right, because if you inject synthetic HGH, your body just shuts down its own production.
Yes. But these peptides just gently signal your pituitary gland to produce its own growth hormone naturally, like it did when you were 20.
You're just turning the factory volume back up. And finally, the cosmetic ones, like copper peptides GHK2.
Which signal the upregulation of collagen and skin elasticity.
We are totally moving away from reactive medicine, aren't we?
We really are. We aren't waiting for a tendon to snap so we can do surgery anymore. We're using things like BPC 157 to accelerate cellular healing before the structural failure.
And that brings this entire deep dive full circle. We've journeyed from the exact hour you should eat in London to anchor your organs, to bypassing the liver with EAAs, fixing the gut to clear the skin, hydrating the dura to stop migraines, and finally to the amino acid sequences that literally rewrite how we heal.
It all points to a massive paradigm shift in how we view the human machine.
So, to summarize for our listener, respect your internal clock. If you can't control sleep, control your light and food timing.
Bypass the liver with EAAs for fasting and aging.
Fix the gut to fix the skin.
Hydrate the dura with sodium to fight those migraines.
And seek out precise data, like the DUTCH test, instead of relying on outdated dogma.
But there's a final thought that really builds on all this.
Yeah, let's hear it.
We've just spent all this time talking about how exquisitely responsive the body is. Adding a pinch of salt stops a migraine. Changing a mealtime resets your biological clock.
Small inputs, massive output.
Exactly. So
Right.
what if our standard societal definition of inevitable aging is just totally wrong?
Oh, wow.
What if aging isn't this relentless, unstoppable decline, but simply the long-term accumulation of tiny, uncorrected nutritional and timing mismatches?
That is a profound way to look at it.
Think about the immense power that puts back in your hands once you stop accepting the breakdown as inevitable.
It changes everything. You aren't just breaking down. Your machine is just waiting for the right inputs.
Exactly.
Well, to the learner, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the consensus, keep demanding the mechanics behind the advice, and remember that the conversation and the most important experiment continues inside your own life. We'll see you next time.